Guys, good evening. We're going to go ahead and officially get started. We are going to use the microphone tonight. I know we don't have a huge audience, but we are filming this, and hopefully we'll be able to make sure that the community members that were not able to be here tonight will have a record of this event. Before we really kick it off, I just want to give a big round of applause to our KCBYN Sidekick journalism students here tonight. Many of them were here last night. There was a PTO candidate forum for school board, and so just love that they are utilizing the skills that they're learning in their classroom and real life activities. So thank you again for both groups for being here tonight. I'm Brad Hunt. I'm the superintendent here at Coppell ISD, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's community budget dialogue. It is an opportunity for us to truly have a dialogue. We've been doing some road shows already with several of our community members, and Angela Brown from Communications will talk about that in a little bit. It's just been great to be able to share information, but also tonight's all about engagement and dialogue. So please come with an open mind, with lots of ideas. And first and foremost, thank you for being here, because showing up means that you care and are concerned, and that says a lot about you and our community. For many of you, you're coming back to Coppell High School because you graduated from here. I see 3 former graduates right here in front of me, but many of you may not have been at Coppell High School before. The restrooms are right up here to my left. We also have some restrooms back there. If you need to, step out and use the facilities, do whatever you need to do to take care of your needs. I know it's sometimes difficult to see slides, but everybody should have at their tables several copies of the presentation that we are going over tonight. After we have tonight's event, we will post it online, if not tomorrow, first of next week, again with maybe possibly the video whenever it is ready, so that our community can have this to access, as well as a reference of tonight's event. So thank you for being here. It's some real serious topics that we're going to be discussing tonight. The issues that we're facing with our budget challenges are important. They're important to us as a community because it affects all of us in some form or fashion, whether you are a student, a staff member, a parent, or a community member. We all are going to be affected by what happens with these budget challenges, and it's important for us to be real and honest about it. The sky's not falling yet, but the sky is going to be falling if we don't do something about our budget issues, and so that's why we've been doing these dialogues. That's why we've been having discussions very closely with our board. That's why we've been working as an administrative team to cut as much as we can in preparation for these budget challenges as we look towards our future. But in CISD, we are all about 4 core values, our core values of great teaching, redefining success, relationships, and engagement. And tonight is all about engagement. It is one of our expectations to have events like this and fully engage with our community. And then specifically, it is an expectation of our board of trustees that we are engaging with our community about our budget challenges. So I'm going to ask our board president to come up and say a few words, and then introduce our board members that are here tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Hunt, and again, welcome to all of you tonight for being here, and thank you for giving out, a little bit of your evening to come here and participate in and to be part of this. It is, my honor to represent the board and to welcome you on their behalf. But I do want to recognize our board, and we have a couple of our other members here. We have Vice President Trustee Anthony Hill here at the back, as well as Trustee Lee Walker. And I know you're going to see, that for us this process started several years ago, and we're going to hear more about that later tonight, and some of the priorities that we put together as we go through this process. But one of our guiding principles has been, community input and transparency, making sure that everything that we talk about, which is in an open, public, recorded meeting, and if you're not there, it's available on the website, is available for you, but also making sure that there is communication coming out to you after every meeting. You're seeing messages from Dr. Hunt and from his team and from the district, and that is all part of something that is near and dear to us, as well as Dr. Hunt, just to make sure that we're not in this alone. It's a group effort, not only the board, but also with the community, and that's what tonight is about. So thank you all for being here. Appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us this evening, and thank you again.
Thank you, David. I appreciate our board members that are here tonight. Also, Rhonda Rebell is here, plays 4. Let's give her a round of applause. The board members are here to listen and to observe. Again, they have an expectation to us as staff that we are doing lots of community engagement surrounding our budget. And so they are here more to listen and observe, but appreciate them being here tonight. We do have a board workshop scheduled for Monday, April the 8th. It's 5:30 in the Benita White ISD boardroom. Everybody is welcome to attend, and it also will be recorded. As David mentioned, all of those meetings are recorded and available online if people can't come in person. But I'm glad you're here tonight. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We have several staff members here tonight that are going to be helping to facilitate this activity. I won't introduce all of them. Several of them wear multiple hats. Many are also community members and also have children in the district. So I appreciate them all being here. Thank you to our staff members. Two that will be presenting tonight along with me are our Chief Financial Officer, Diana Surkar, and Chief Communication Officer, Angela Brown. We will be sharing the bulk of the presentation tonight. And then Angela will share with you how we are going to divide up to get some community input, because this really is a dialogue. We want to hear from you. We want to be able to answer any questions you might have and address any concerns you might have. Because in addition to our 4 core values, our mission statement begins with the 2 words, working together. And so it's by working together we're able to overcome challenges. We take our obstacles and make them opportunities. And we do everything we can to make sure that our kids are taken care of, our teachers are taken care of, our staff, and our community and our parents. We couldn't do what we do without our amazing parents. Our parents are outstanding. Many of our parents also are serving as board of trustees. One of those is Mr. Joby Matthews, so I'd like to recognize him as he comes in tonight. Joby, thank you and all of our board members again for your service and for being here. We also have our vision of You Matter. You Matter in CISD. What does You Matter mean? You Matter means that your ideas matter, your feelings about things matter, your involvement matters. It doesn't mean everybody gets what they want. It doesn't mean everybody gets their way, but we do what we can in a very respectful and meaningful way, because in order to have a dialogue, you have to come to the table together. And sometimes when you are talking about serious topics, it's hard to find a common ground. But I think most people will recognize Coppell ISD as a destination school district. People move here for the schools, people stay here for the schools. And so we want to make sure that we are providing the best quality education that we can to all of our constituents. And we also want to make sure that the people that live in CISD feel good about the services that we provide. So we're building tomorrow together. We are all here as a team. We are working together to make this happen. And so, as I said, tonight's going to be more about a dialogue, but we want to give you some content so you know what it is that we are facing. Last spring, our community came together and approved a over $320 million bond package. 4 propositions passed, and for that I'm very, very grateful. But sometimes people will stop me at Anamias and say, Brad, how on earth are you all struggling with a budget challenge when you were just awarded $321 million? Well, if you are plugged in to school finance, you understand that that money cannot be used to pay for teachers. It can be used for operational expenses. It can only be used for what the voters approve. And so that's technology, that's band instruments, that's library books, that's construction, that's things like furniture. Those are the things that a bond can pay for. We're grateful for a bond to pass because it could also be more challenging as far as our budget is concerned if we didn't have that money to spend on repairs. A lot of those funds are spent for maintenance type issues. And so having that money has been extremely helpful to us. But as you all know, we don't sell all those bonds at once. And so that is also a process too. And again, that money must be spent on those bond projects. So when our Chief Financial Officer comes forward, she will explain more about M&O funds versus INS and all of that. But I just want to put that out there so people have a better understanding and realize that these are 2 separate issues. But I also want to acknowledge that we're making great progress on that bond. We are committed to doing what our community has asked us to do. And so we've got a lot of projects that are in the works, many that are under construction right now. If you've driven by any one of our elementary schools, with the exception of Canyon Ranch, that's our newest school at 5 years old, they're not getting new playgrounds because they already have the new playgrounds, but all the other elementary schools are getting brand new playgrounds. You can see that work happening right now. If you drove in to Coppell High School and noticed that there were new seats at Buddy Eccles Field, if you are working off your new device, if you're a student or a staff member, we were able to get technology out in the hands of our children and our staff members. So lots is already happening on that bond, and many things will continue to happen. Check out the CISD website for more information. But like I said, tonight's all about our budget and the challenges that we are faced with. And unfortunately, we are faced with some pretty big challenges. Hopefully you can see communication come out from me so that you are aware. If you've been watching the news, you might see other school districts that are experiencing similar challenges. But every district is unique, and our challenges are our own, and our solutions are our own. But I know by working together, we will be able to solve these issues and do what we need to do to make sure we're taking care of our kids. But I'm going to turn it over to Diana Sarkar, our Chief Financial Officer, and she's going to give you some more content, and then Angela Brown, Chief Communications Officer, will talk to you about how we're going to divide up and get more input. But again, thank you for being here. Thank you for your open mind. Thank you for coming with some suggestions. And hopefully this isn't the first part of the process that you've been involved with. And we'll be working on this for a couple of years. So please make sure that you stay on the journey with us. But again, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Hunt. There we go. That did it. Okay.
Oh, I was supposed to turn that down. I apologize.
No worries. Thank you. So as Dr. Hunt mentioned, there are two different buckets for which Capella ISD collects taxes. The first is maintenance and operations taxes, and that bucket of money pays for our everyday expenses, all of our salaries for our teachers, and all of our utilities to run the schools, and all of our transportation. And then the second bucket is the INS bucket. That is our debt service bucket. The funds that come into that bucket pay the principal and interest on the bonds that are issued. So that's where that money goes, and it cannot be spent on operational expenses or salaries. School districts in Texas are funded based upon average daily attendance. So that's how many students are in attendance every day at school. So if a student were to attend all school days of a school year, the district would receive $6,160 for that student. But if the student's not here all those days, the district gets something less than that. There are some special situations, some special programs and students that need additional services, and so the district does get a little bit of extra funding for those types of things. If you're like me, you see your tax bill come in every year and you see your property values in Capella ISD are going up. But just because property values are going up does not mean that the school district gets any more funding. Funding is calculated based on that average daily attendance. So think of the school district's funding entitlement as that glass, and local taxes start filling that glass up. If local taxes don't fill the glass completely, the state will kick in its portion and it will fill the glass. But if local taxes exceed the amount of that glass, then that amount that spills over is sent back to the state. It's what's called recapture. Some people would call it Robin Hood, but that's the situation that Capella is in, is that the local taxes that we collect are more than the amount that the school district gets to keep. So that money goes back to the state. And the state puts that money in their general fund. Sometimes they pay for filling other school districts' glasses with that money, but they can also use it for other state expenses. Attendance matters. Average daily attendance is how the district is funded. So as students are absent, the district will get less funding. The district did have attendance of about 96.7% prior to COVID. And when COVID hit, our attendance was a little bit different during COVID because we had some remote school. But since that time, attendance percentages have not reached that 96.7% level again. So we're really focusing on attendance and encouraging students to come to school and making sure we're focusing on that. And I'll let Angela explain more about that.
And as Angela's coming to the microphone, it's important to note on that last slide that Diana had about how much money would be saved if kids came to school at least 2 additional days. And so that's what Angela is going to go into. We had a little graphic that explained last fall our big campaign. And this has been something that we've had, I think, 4 or 5 different presentations like this already. And every one of the community members was very kind of surprised by that slide and wanted to hear more information. So I'm glad that we're able to provide additional.
So for every 1% that we can increase our attendance, that equals $1 million additional revenue for the school district. And this year we launched a 12-week campaign called Attendance Matters in Coppell ISD. That's how we started our school year. And it's important that we continue to talk to our families about that if you go to a doctor's appointment, that it's important that we get that doctor's note and that you attend school, because every day that you miss does affect that $6,160. If a family for whatever reason chooses to take a time off or go on a trip, that does impact the district's funding. Not only does it impact the child's learning, but it also does impact the district's funding. So we're going to be doing even more of a campaign this school year and then into next school year, really talking about what are those things that are excused for funding, and then what are the things that are excused for attendance, for compulsory attendance, and then really talking about sometimes, that we take attendance at the elementary level at 10 o'clock, and at the middle school level, for funding, we take it at 10:15, and at the high school here, we take it at 10:45, and that if the children can be here, that's an important piece of that. So really talking to our families about what is attendance and why is it important, and what are the pieces that go with that. If your child is sick, they need to stay home. I mean, that's really what sick days are for. And take your child to the doctor and get that doctor's note and bring it back. So those are important pieces that we'll be continuing to talk about throughout the school year.
If you're following along on the handout, it was slide number 9 that for some reason didn't show up on the screen, but it does give you an idea of a quick snapshot of the campaign the communications team did this past fall. We point that out because of the feedback we've been receiving doing these various road shows at our different campuses. And also, too, we did a survey a couple of weeks ago, and several people asked about attendance in that survey. We want to make sure that this was pointed out to you today, so thank you.
So our budget challenges. There's a number of them. One is just increasing costs. Inflation has risen over 20% since 2019. 2019 was the last time that the state increased that basic allotment for school funding. That's the last time that $6,160, that's when it increased to that amount. So the district is having to react to inflation. Supplies are more expensive, costs of transportation are more expensive, even salaries and benefits for our employees so that we can retain those employees is very important. In addition, the state has put some additional mandates on the districts and not provided adequate funding for all of those mandates. And as you may have heard in the news that the state had $33 billion in surplus funds this year. And there was a number of bills passed in some sessions, but were never enacted into law. There were a number of bills passed that actually put money into the state's budget, almost $4 billion into the state's budget, that would have flowed to schools and provided schools with additional funding. Some of that funding had to do with teacher salaries because the state, they commissioned a group to study teacher vacancies. Why were teachers leaving the profession? What could they do about that? And so they had money designated for that. Also, what are the costs of special education? The state recognizes that they're not funding special education at the level that it needs to be funded. So there was money put into the budget for that. But unfortunately, there were no bills enacted to actually allow that money to flow to schools. So that $4 billion is in the state budget, but it's going to remain there because there's no way for it to come out to schools. Another one of the district's challenges is our enrollment. The district had seen rising enrollment for many years and had grown with that enrollment. In fact, enrollment was anticipated to go up to about 14,000 students. Currently, we're sitting at about 13,400 students. And our demographer has told us the last few times he's presented that this is going to be our peak. And we're going to start seeing declining enrollment. And you might ask, what is driving that? Some of the things that are driving it is the cost of homes here in CISD. Home prices have exploded in many ways. It's hard for someone to move in and to have a starter home in Coppell ISD. So what's happening is we're not seeing the kindergartners coming in. We're not seeing the elementary schools fill up. Where we're seeing any kind of growth is in the secondary schools. So on this slide, you can see that the gray cohorts are in the vertical columns, and then that yellow line shows what the enrollment projection was for this year. So we've got a cohort of a little bit over 700 kindergartners that enrolled this year. Yet we've got 1,000 fifth graders that are going to be moving out of that elementary school. Same thing with the high school, that senior class, there's over 1,000 seniors that are leaving. So if we have 1,000 seniors leaving the district and only 700 coming in, we've got that delta of 300 students. And as I've said, we are anticipating that we will fill in some of those seats, but they'll be in the secondary level. So the district's been working, looking at different ways for which we can address the budget challenges that we've got, and looking at auditing our current practices, making sure we're monitoring those enrollment projections and getting our demographer's report twice a year so that we understand what might happen with enrollment or what he projects will. Looking at state legislation and making sure we understand what funding may come to the district, what funding might not come to the district. And then we're developing recommendations. These are things that the district typically always does. We market. We're doing even more marketing to get our pre-K students to enroll in kindergarten. We are making sure that we are adjusting any fees that we have for rising costs. We're looking at ways to increase our teachers' compensation so that we're retaining the best teachers. And then we're also utilizing other sources of revenue to pay for things. Dr. Hunt mentioned bond funds, and yes, we're using those bond funds to finance our capital purchases and our capital construction projects. We use any type of state or federal grants that we are allowed to apply for. We apply for those and use those funds. We have some discounts through the government for telecommunications that we use. And in fact, we even try to negotiate long-term contracts. And we have a long-term contract for electricity right now, which I believe lasts until around until 2032. So that's been very advantageous for us. And we always look at ways that if we need to renegotiate or if we've got a contract that expires, that we're putting that out to bid and getting the best value for the district. But some of the things that we're working on for this next budget is, I'm just going to grab this piece of paper, excuse me.
Yeah, don't let the easiness of that slide alarm you. We are working on lots of things, but for some reason the Wi-Fi is not taking some of the updates. And so, like I said, we have been doing these little road shows, and every single one that we go to, we get great feedback from our parents about different ideas and suggestions, but also they're quick to let us know what we could do differently or better. And so one of those has been just sharing some of the things that we're already doing. And this is also a response to that survey. We had over 240 people complete the survey, and some of those suggestions were things that we've already implemented or we were beginning to start to implement. And so Diana's going to go over those things. Okay.
So these are some of the things that we are planning to implement for 24-25. That's this upcoming budget season. And that is we are looking at updating our transportation fees as well as our facility rental fees. We are trying to maximize our state funding. When we look at some of those extra courses that, or students that generate extra funding, we're looking at ways to make sure that those students are coded appropriately in the system and how can we generate more funds. We are restricting travel for some of our staff members, specifically out-of-state travel. We passed along a mandatory budget reduction for all of our district departments, and then a smaller reduction for all of our campuses. We're utilizing employee attrition, and we're using that to strategically reduce our overall payroll expense. That includes all areas of administration and support as well. We're looking at master scheduling and how we can be more efficient. We're looking at even generating additional revenue through digital flyer distribution and seeking corporate sponsors for certain events such as graduation and convocation and other events that the district puts on. And then some additional things that we'll be looking at is, again, determining how we can be as efficient as we can with staffing and scheduling, looking at all of the software that the district uses, making sure we're auditing that for use. Are people using it? Are they not? Or is it redundant? Do we have something that does the same thing? Looking again at opportunities to renegotiate contracts, bid out new opportunities, looking at staffing ratios, and then again focusing on attendance. So this slide has a lot of information on it, but I want to talk just about fund balance. Imagine if you started a new job in September and your employer said, thanks for joining us, but we can't pay you until the end of December, and we're going to give you your entire year's salary in January and February. But then you have to save that, and you have to save it and spend it all year long. That's what the school district faces. The school district gets tax revenue pretty much at the end of December through February. So we get all of our revenue at that time. We need funds from the beginning of the school year in August through December to pay all of our salaries, to pay all of our utility bills and all of that. So the district needs about $42 million in funds to be able to meet all of those expenditures before we start getting tax revenue. So the fund balance that we have currently is healthy, and that's great. We have been able to save funds over the years. It's been built up slowly over the years, and so the board was comfortable saying, let's look at using some of that fund balance as we work our way out of these budget challenges. So as we look at making long-term sustainable type changes to our budget, we'll probably be using some of that fund balance. Fund balance is also important when it comes to our credit rating. And the district has a AA credit rating. That's important for when we issue our bonds. It helps to drive down the cost of those bonds. So the interest that we pay on those bonds is lower because our bonds are more desirable because we have a higher credit rating. So it is important that we have a strong fund balance so that our creditors know that we can pay the bills.
Before we leave this slide, some of the feedback that we've received is this where the sense of urgency is? And the answer is yes. These are all projected deficits. Some of it might not be realized to that high amount, but as you can see, it continues to decline. We can't live off that fund balance indefinitely, so we have to start making some decisions now.
Is that 80 million on 20, this is hard to see.
It is, so yes, the very top line is 80 million. So the highest green bar is about 75 million. That's where we started. That's where we ended the last school year, 2022-2023. That's where we ended. And so then the board adopted a deficit budget this year. It's about $13.8 million. We're not going to realize that entire deficit this year, but right now it looks like we'll realize around a $10 million deficit. So that's going to reduce that amount for the end of this school year. And this slide really was our initial projections. It is the worst case scenario. We don't want this to happen. So that's why we're trying to make some changes now, so that we can smooth out the reduction of the fund balance and maintain our position. These were the priorities that the board determined last year and gave to us when we created last year's budget. And they told us to look and consider these same priorities this year as we work through these budget challenges.
Before we go into our table discussion and our activity, I just wanted to remind everyone that we are going to have lots of opportunities for our community to give input. And we are coming to different campuses, to the staff meetings and to PTO meetings to do a similar presentation, to have a small group discussion, and to really get feedback from our community. We did do an online survey that closed last week. And we will be speaking with the school board on Monday night at our board workshop, presenting some of those results to our school board. We're really looking for long-term sustainable solutions, and that's really what we're going to be focusing on tonight as we have a conversation. And I just wanted to remind you of that piece. After this, if you have more questions, feel free to always email us at input@capelaisd.com, and on our website at capelaisd.com/budget, we have all of this information.